They talk about that handball. Sean Dyche also wondered whether Forest should have had a penalty as well. What do you think on this one before we get to the handball?
Yeah, no, I think it was close initially. I did think it was a penalty, but when you look closely at it, I think Hudson-Odoi drives into the box and Timber does have hold of him, he does grab him, but you see here, he just lets go just before he gets into the penalty box, so I don't think that's a penalty for me.
So he releases him before he gets into the penalty box, so just the yellow card. This, Alan?
No, I agree with Sean Dyche. That I don't want to see this be given as a penalty. He does get a shove in the back there. The arm's close to the body, and it's in a justifiable position, and it hits the top of his sleeve first, and then onto the arm. So not handball for me, no.
Just talk to us about the psychology of playing your match after your title rivals have lost earlier in the day.
Yeah, it can be tough because I'm sure the Arsenal players, if they was watching the game, will have been sat there thinking, you know, we're going to be 9 points clear, and sometimes you forget you've got a game to play, and actually watching that game, you waste a lot of energy watching the game, so it can be tough, but I do think that was a massive point for Arsenal. I think with Man City losing, to go and get a point, I know they would have wanted 3, but to extend the lead to Man City to 7 points and get that point, I think that's a huge point for them.
Do you think that's a good point? I mean, they've actually extended a lead over City.
I think it's a good point for Arsenal and for Forest. I thought Forest deserved the point the way they worked, but for Arsenal, in terms of it's been another good weekend for them where they extend the lead by a point, so absolutely, yes.
Next weekend it is Arsenal against Manchester United. Let's show you the Premier League table. Arsenal extend their lead to 7 points. Aston Villa will cut that gap, though, to 4 if they beat Everton tomorrow. Wins for Manchester United and Chelsea take them to within striking distance of 4th place Liverpool. West Ham now 5 points behind 17th place Nottingham Forest. Burnley 8 points adrift despite their draw at Anfield. That's it from us. Kelly is here tomorrow. Me and
as most managers would say, some are given, some are not, and that's the consistency is probably not there at the moment. But I would have thought it would have been very harsh, and I think it was up the other end, and Arsenal had done that. I think Mikel Arteta had been really, really disappointed and frustrated with if that was a penalty.
Yeah, he's already disappointed and frustrated because his side had a chance to go 9 points clear at the top of the table. They didn't take it. It's kind of the second week where they had that moment to open up a gap and they didn't do it. How frustrated do you think they would be overall?
I think they'll be frustrated because they've been the best team in the Premier League, best team in the Champions League. You know, they've got the best defence, they have the most clean sheets, they're the best almost in every category. But today, I think if he's honest, he'll realise they weren't at their best. Nottingham Forest played really well today, probably deserved something from the game. He said they have 4 clear-cut chances. I don't know if they were clear-cut. They probably had one really big one with Saka. Martinelli had one where he probably chose the wrong foot. So I just think he'll be happy with the fact they got a point. Last season, they probably would have lost this game. And I think this season, what they're doing really well is they're getting points in games when they're not at their best, and they definitely weren't at their best today.
So a point for Arsenal.
A bit harsh if you said Alisson should have got something on that, but with the pace of the ball, the way he hit it, it was a great finish. It really was.
And that's the goal that made it 1-1 at Anfield between Liverpool and Burnley. We're going to move on now to action at the City Ground, where Arsenal arrived at Nottingham Forest, knowing that victory would take them 9 points clear at the top of the table. But Forest also needed a result, given what happened around them in the table. Your commentary team for this one, Jim Beglin and Jim Brown.
Against these sides, you've got to, you know, the commitment is different. The commitment to score a goal, of course, is always there. You want to win games, but what about the commitment to the shape, you know, the basics and the hard yards of the game? And I thought we did that fantastically well as a group. They still had a couple of chances, but, you know, they're a top side and they're flying. But to get a clean sheet against them is very pleasing. We've had a couple of moments ourselves, but it's hard to open them up, as they've shown all season.
We obviously wanted to win the game, and we knew the game was going to be very tough, very close as well, for the way that they play. We created 4 big chances and a clear penalty, but we weren't able to win the game.
I want to talk about the penalty because I felt as I was watching it that the only decision was whether the ball was in play or not. Yeah. I didn't feel handball was even in doubt. It clearly looked like it.
Well, I just seen the reps. I think it's a clear intention to keep the ball inside, so it's a clear penalty. So I don't understand why it's not been given.
It
Season.
was a long time ago, but
it was the
Invincibles, yeah, 2004.
It could have been the case today What does it tell you that they weren't able to go 9 points clear?
Well, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you don't lose the game, and at times Forest did push and had a couple of opportunities, but it's a difficult place to play, City Ground, and they really was up for it tonight. But Mikel will be disappointed because that was a big statement to make, to go 9 points clear. But 7 points is still a good position to be in. I know Villa have got to play tomorrow and they could close it to 4 points. But I think the lads will be disappointed, but now all sights will be on their next game. That's all you can do. You can't change what's happened. You can say we should have created more chances at times and got in behind the Forest defence a little bit better. But as you're walking off that pitch, you're disappointed. But tomorrow, you forget about that and we'll look for the next game. That's all you can do.
Back-to-back goalless draws for them in the Premier League. The last time that happened, Mikel Arteta was still a player.
Good stat, Jules.
Oh, you're very good, Jules, today.
Oh, we have a great stats department, I have to say.
Do you know what? I wouldn't say it's the pressure and the magnitude of it, but it's different now. They're not chasing. You know, they're the leaders. They've been the best team in the Premier League, best team in the Champions League. I wouldn't even say they've had a little wobble. I just think they haven't been at their best. And you'd have to say, I thought Nottingham Forest today were terrific. Defended really well, put them under a lot of pressure. But I think if they've got the squad that they have, with the options to change it in a game, I just feel that that's a game they should be winning. I don't think they tested the goalkeeper enough cells. OK, he made a good save, but he only made 3, Jules. You know, he should be peppered. They should have had loads of shots, and I just don't think they put enough pressure on Nottingham Forest defensively. When they made those runs in behind and put those passes behind, I thought they looked more dangerous, but everything was in front of Nottingham Forest. So I think it's something Mikel will look at and think, right, how can we create more? You know, set piece offs, we know they're great, but they need to create more from open play.
Well, what does that come down to, do you think? Not just the way that they play.
For them, Stephen, today, especially given the West Ham result earlier and the players finding that out just before they started.
Yeah, that would have given them a huge lift for sure, especially with West Ham leading the game and looking as if they could have took something out of the game. So before the game, that would have given them a good lift going into this game, because it was a difficult game for them today, playing the champions here, with them having the opportunity to stretch the lead at the top. So a lot of focus will be on Arsenal not taking that opportunity, but we can't disrespect the performance that these Forest players have put in today. To a man all over the pitch defensively, they were well drilled, well organised. Sean Dyche deserves a lot of credit for that. They've had some stick over the set-piece form this season. They had a lot through at them today. They were getting bodies in front of it. The keepers pulled off a world-class save. So they deserve a lot of credit today, and this is a huge point. This point will feel like a win in that Forest dressing room.
Why do you feel that Arsenal failed to capitalise on the opportunity that they had today, Martin?
Gilt-edged opportunities, not taking them in the moment. That's really what it came down to today. Of course, you're making those chances. The goalkeeper seemed inspired. Certainly the save from Saka was top level. He's reminding me of Peter Shilton back in the day at this ground. Sean Dyche coming out. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, Inter away next for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta there saying it was a clear penalty that his side should have had after that Ola Aina handball there. He said he brings the ball in with his hands, Stephen. The Premier League Match Centre said it came off his shoulder first and the arm was in a natural position.
I think it'll split opinion, this one. I think his body action is natural coming towards the ball, because he has got to turn into the pitch. I think you would feel a little bit hard done by an Arsenal lad that hasn't at least had a look at in terms of going to the screen. But I don't think it's a real clear and obvious mistake from the referee in the first place, because we've seen it in slow motion and it looks worse than in real time. So I think it would have been a little bit soft and unfair on Forest, in my opinion, but I can understand why the manager's frustrated, Mikel Arteta.
Do you see it coming off his shoulder first, Martin, and that arm being in a natural position?
To be honest, they're two separate things. There's enough of a gap between. It hits his shoulder and then he seems to cup the ball. He seems to move his arm around. Now, maybe from this angle they thought, oh, maybe it wasn't, but certainly the one before, it looks to me like...
I think Anderson's as well, the pressure of Anderson as well moves his body even more to it as well. I think it would have been really harsh on Forest.
I would have liked the referee to go on and have a look, though, to see if he...
Well, she would, you're an Arsenal fan. We know that, man.
Yeah, we know
also,
that.
Martin, we
clear.
do keep asking for this high bar, don't we, to say that we want the referees.
We're asking for the right decisions.
We don't want too many interventions in games, and that bar has to be high before the referee goes to a monitor. Would that be high enough?
Subjectivity, it all comes down to someone.
Going to the screen an awful lot more than we already are, though, if for situations like that, like ricochets or motions where your body's going to, I think we'd be given a lot more penalties
If
well,
it was
I think they're
Liverpool, he'd
lucky.
be
I think
screaming
Forest
for
are
him
lucky.
to go to the monitor.
Yeah.
Well, are you a Liverpool fan?
Of course I am.
Well, you'd have wanted
Of course
that,
I am.
wouldn't you, as a penalty?
No, listen, I think there's a shout there. I don't think it's as clear as Martin and Mikel Arteta are saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's blatant and clear, especially in real time for the referee's point of view. And I think you've got to be careful, you know, clutching at straws a little bit, because that's not the reason why they haven't got maximum points today. The reason is because they were very wasteful in the first half and the keepers made a world-class save. I thought Arsenal performance was good today. They controlled large parts of the game. They created enough chances to win the game. But I think if the focus from an Arsenal point of view is just on that